Welcome to the Every Day is a New Day show. I am your host, Kim O'Neill, and today's amazing guest is international intuitive healer and medium Jessica Keats. At the time when this episode was recorded, there was a lot going on in the world with Black Lives Matter, coronavirus, and so much more. For that reason, it felt most appropriate to leave the show intro off, and shortly after we began today's show, we took a moment to just pause. Just pause and have a moment of silence. Sometimes there are no words or actions to yet be taken. And the best thing is to simply pause and be. I invite you to join us in this episode, and I hope you are well. And now here's today's show. Welcome to the Every Day is a New Day show. My name is Kim O'Neill, and I'm excited to be joined with my awesome guest today, Jessica Keats. Welcome, Jessica.
Hi, Kim. It's great to be here.
It is great to have you here. I'm not going to do the typical show intro for tonight, and I want to just first acknowledge, what so many of us are witnessing and experiencing, and acknowledge that we're all, I know on some level, trying to find the right words and the right actions for how to respond to this moment. And I'm speaking for myself, and I know I see it with so many others. And so, what I have chosen along with Jessica's actual, input as well is I would love to really just have a moment of silence. And, it was actually Jessica's suggestion, and I think it's beautiful. So we're just simply going to take a moment of silence before we get into today's interview. And so I invite you to join us in that. Okay. So tonight I am interviewing international healer, intuitive, and medium Jessica Keats. And Jessica, I want to go ahead and really introduce people to who you are by sharing your bio with everyone first, just to give them a little bit of your background. And then we're going to get into the flow of today's conversation. So as we are here today, feel free to go ahead and let us know what questions, ahas, comments, anything at all that shows up for you. Let us know in the chat. We look forward to connecting with you and engaging live or on the replay. So Jessica Keats, pulling it up here. Jessica Keats is an international healer, consulting with individuals and businesses to increase and maximize their potential and profit. Known for her ability to make profound change in a person's mind, body, and soul within 2 to 3 sessions, Jessica is renowned for healing limiting beliefs, fears, and past traumas, so her clients improve physically and emotionally while reaching new heights professionally. And it was actually through her yoga therapy training where Jessica's intuition and ability of sensing started to awaken. The yogic philosophy of turning inwards and listening turned into the secret weapon behind her personal and professional growth. The more Jessica put herself first, the faster her intuition and healing abilities grew. The more she healed her limiting beliefs and traumas, the more her self-confidence skyrocketed. Her previously unknown self-value, Jessica, I freaking love your bio. Her every sentence is like, yeah, it gets better and better. Her previously unknown self-value became known by her and all who crossed paths with her, propelling forward into new opportunities, both personally and professionally. And she is also the author of Flow. The beginning is upon us. And she's coming to us live from Ontario, Canada. And I'm going to leave it there. So, Jessica, how are you doing today?
I have to say, Kim, that I love when you read my bio. I would like you just follow me around and just like read it out. It's so much power when you do it. It's amazing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Today's a little interesting because there is so much going on in the world right now, and then we have this big full moon coming with a partial lunar eclipse, and we're just like, it's like this morning I woke up and I can just feel the intensity of it, because this month it's like on a level that is more like universal and energetic. It's a big, huge month. And then we're seeing that in, big, huge stuff taking place in the world, right? So
Yeah.
there is definitely a lot to feel and be aware of right now. So that's kind of where I am.
I love that you brought that up because something that has really stood out for me is I've also been, I pay attention and read information about energies coming up and full moons and things like that. And one of the common themes I've seen, let me know if this resonates with your awareness of it, but one of the common themes I've seen is about how not just hear me out, how expansive and abundant June is going to be, ripe with opportunities, ripe with growth. And what, when I put two and two together, I'm going, how does that make sense when we've got all this grief and all this chaos or just energies shifting, right? And so how do those two come together? And the first thing that comes to mind is, oh, we feel that so we can release it, which opens the space for that massive abundance.
Yeah, yeah. Because in June, like it's definitely the potential is there. And it's not just for June, right? It's the new potential. The new potential that's coming for us is to have this abundance and this flow and this ease that we can, like that anything's possible. And, when something so amazing comes, we're not
I love that.
always prepared for it, right? Like we're not
Yes.
always in alignment with amazingness.
I
So
love that.
right, so we do.
Well, our soul is, right? Our
Yeah.
soul, the truth and all that. But on
Mhm.
this human plane, it's kind of
Yeah.
like, wait, what? What?
Yeah, this sticky plane where we have, traumas and beliefs that are not suiting us anymore, and so we can see the ripple effect of that, and especially when we get close to the full moon, because it's really kind of the portion of the cycle that where the death of something happens, what it occurs, right? And
Yeah.
so for a lot of people in the last few weeks, the topic has been about death in the news, but it's also been this spiritual awareness of like their own sense of past self dying, or just being aware of both the physical body death and also the spiritual enlightenment death, right?
Yeah.
So,
And that can take place in so many ways. So it can take place on somewhat of an unseen level, such as, dying off of old limiting beliefs, perspectives, as well as, oh my goodness, relationships are completely transforming or ending and starting and things like that. So it just has, does that resonate for you? How do you relate to that?
yeah, it's definitely and sometimes more than one thing at once, right? Is you'd like to think it would just be like one thing we're dealing with,
I
but
know.
the better you get at evolving, the more things you're doing at the same time. And so sometimes it can be like challenging to really get a feel of like what is actually happening here. Like, but yeah, it's very much the relation. It goes all the way through, right? So it's essentially the relationship with ourselves that's changing, but then that ripples out to the relationships with the people around us, and then the community, and then society, and then the world, right? So it's like just it keeps going. Um, and as our sense of self changes, all of those layers change as well. And so we really feel, we can either feel a lot of excitement, a lot of like, I'm not really sure, or yeah, get me out of here. I'm running the other way.
What are your thoughts about I'm not even sure if I might phrase this and I might rephrase it, but what are your thoughts about, or the perception that change is to look the same for everybody at the same time?
That sounds crazy. What?
Okay.
How is that even possible?
Yeah,
That's like madness.
yeah.
Change cannot look the same for everybody at every time. Sorry if that.
No, thank
Yeah,
you. That's ultimately my response too. But
okay, good.
I am sensing and seeing this perception that it's supposed to be the same for everybody, and I'm seeing that generate new layers of resistance
Yeah, it
within.
would, right? Because there's no room for uniqueness to pop up, and there's no room for, I mean, even people that seemingly have the same, you see that even in families with a few children, right?
Yes.
Every child has a different experience of what's going on. And so there's no way, even in a healing, there's no way, no two things look the same. My value issues are not your value issues. And they're all value issues, but they're not the same.
And they're all valuable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to say that. I get I don't know how to finish that statement. Okay. Jessica, let's get into specifically what you do. I find it fascinating that you are able to really help people create massive shift in 2 to 3 sessions. We shared a little bit about your journey through reading your bio, but will you take us a little deeper about this path you've been on from where you are today and how life used to look completely different before? What was that journey like for you?
So I started out right and wrong, black and white, do it my way or the highway, right? Like those
Okay.
are the themes of my life, which really served me. So I was very thankful for them until they didn't, right? And then that way, I did start to get ill. So I started to, I think first what broke down was mentally. Mentally, I felt unbalanced, and I started doing things like counting a lot, like a lot of counting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so there was this, like, I was not okay, and so then tension kept growing, and then it became a physical reaction, right? And then I was borderline lupus at one point, right? So
Wow.
and it was at that moment, and I think I had already been in yoga. Yeah, I definitely was already in yoga for a while. And the doctor that I had seen, she said, so she's like, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a yoga teacher. And she was like, yeah, you're not doing it right. She's
What?
like, you're not doing it right if you're sick. And I was like,
Oh,
oh, yeah, fair enough, probably, right? Like,
okay.
yeah, I was like, so I didn't know what that equaled to, but I knew what she was saying to me is like, I don't want to see you back in this office. Please go figure this out because you're getting massively unwell. You're
Wow.
on like the path you're on is not going to end well. And so I kind of went back and this rang in my ears, like, that not that I'm not, well, probably not that I'm not doing it right. Like, because I was definitely the person who liked to get 100% and do everything right. So, so that was like a harsh reality, right? Like but it was something that kind of paired very well with me exploring yoga therapy then. So I think that we kind of go into fields to try to heal ourselves, right?
Yes.
Like even if we're not cognitively aware of it at the time, we think we're doing it for others. This is how we rationalize it away. We're really on a journey of trying to find ourselves and heal ourselves. So I got into yoga therapy. I thought it was interesting. I had an experience where I went to meet, a very infamous yoga therapy teacher in Canada, and at a yoga conference, and I found out I was also like a fitness instructor at the time, and I found out that I could not move my body. Like I could not move my body without tensing everything.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
like I couldn't do like a movement of my leg without like my face getting involved. So, so I was like, yeah, well, this is problematic. No sense of ease, no sense of ease. And so it was really eye-opening, right? And so it pushed me even further into, wanting to be trained as a yoga therapist and wanting to really like explore this, probably wanting to explore myself without really wanting to explore myself. Like if that sounds,
1 foot in, 1 foot out.
right. Like I'm doing this for others and maybe me, but not really.
Yep.
Yeah. And so really it was this moment, this moment where I was failing, this moment where I wasn't getting it right, this moment where I was just like, F it, right? Like, I'm not, who cares? I just, I just was like, I don't want to get it right if this is what it means, right? Like, so, and so one of those like breakdown moments, somebody asked me recently, is there evolution or letting go? She said, can you talk about the difference between letting go and giving up? And I said, well, I think at first it is giving up. Like you are literally giving up a way of being. Until it becomes easier to let go. And then you're just like, I'm letting go. Yay.
Right. Now because then it feels safer too. You feel, you get it more at that point.
Yeah. But in the beginning, like when evolution comes, you're like, it's usually a give up, break down sort of situation. It's like Jesus take the wheel. Like I cannot take this anymore. It's happening.
Breakdowns to breakthroughs.
Yes, exactly. And so yoga therapy, it really, I think that particular breakdown, and then the next one, which was where I realized I didn't really prioritize myself. So I was a mom, I was a wife, I was a daughter, I was a granddaughter, but not, I wasn't me, right? Like there was no me in that list. So it was all about who I was and not who I am. And when I realized that, just this little moment of like, everyone's sick in the house except for me, and I don't even know what I would cook myself for dinner without having to cook it for the family. Do you know what I mean? Like, nor would I even put that effort in. Like, I would just buy takeout, right? And I realized I don't even know what to feed myself. Like, I can't eat, like, I don't even know how to prepare food for me. And that was probably, those two things were the give up breakthrough moments. And then my intuition started to really grow. Yeah. So it's like, right. Because like I was really starting to see myself. I was really starting to make actual change at that point because I was starting to really feel what was going on in myself and start to nourish myself and start to take myself into consideration. And in those moments, my intuition got stronger and stronger.
Wow. Are there any of those moments that you can really pinpoint as being a pivotal moment?
Those two, and then the next pivotal moments in my intuition growing were We're definitely the losing control. So losing control, letting go of control is what we like to call it. It
Okay,
feels
letting
like,
go.
yeah, but in the beginning, it felt like losing control. So,
Okay. Okay, got it.
yeah. When you're around the other side of it, you can go, oh yeah, letting go of control, cool. But when I knew that was coming, so I knew it was the difference between having ease, having ease, my intuition being strong, being able to see, being able to hear, being like having that whole expansion to my intuition. I knew it was a difference between that. And yet I still was like, I don't want to lose control. It was a journey of a year. It took about a year and a half. And then I was like, yeah, let's let go of more control. But definitely I probably cried the first 2 months of that journey.
Okay. When you think about letting go of control or losing control, and
Yeah.
if any of this starts to repeat or cycle back around, it's because I'm really just wanting to get to the like ultimate breakdown core essence of all of this, because
Yeah.
to me, those are those tiny little gaps, those little nuggets that help us all to go, oh, that's how I do it. Or, oh, that was that one moment I had. And now like things click. And so what was the question I was just going to ask you? So the question I was going to ask you was, had something to do with losing control, had to do with, okay, so when you say letting go of control, you know, what specifically did that look like? Did it look like going, okay, I have to start eating different foods? Did it look like, okay, I have to learn more about yoga? Did it, or was there something else? Was it simply I'm going to surrender to go knowing that I don't know and things are just going to show up?
So it didn't really have to do with eating different food or doing more yoga. And it would be nice if it was just like one thing that you had to stop doing. But when you live your life with control, it's never one thing, right? It's just that you become aware of the next thing and the next thing and the next thing when you're more comfortable with becoming aware of it. Like how deep, especially like I used control to feel very safe. So you can imagine it bled through all pieces of my life. Like, yes, like it, and this is where the bodily tension was coming from. Cause it was like, I couldn't relax into the unknown because that is horrifying. So for me, it was like controlling other people's behavior, needing things to go a certain way, needing them to go my way. Even, yeah, it's hard to pick the very
Those are
surface behaviors, right? But
those are excellent because we can all like relate to those in certain ways in our life, and so thank you. I think that is exactly.
it gave you a little beat at least.
Yeah.
I'm like, let me get out my journal and see what that looks like. No.
Exactly. I was trying to control that thing. Okay.
Yeah, even the controlling of information, right? So one of the things I first cried about is because I knew that so what I channeled in a session with a client, like I was getting a lot of information, right? But I knew I didn't need all that information. And therefore that would be backing off. And it would be backing off even precisely to teach me that I don't need all that information. So like, even that was horrifying. I was like, well, my clients are going to take me seriously if I don't know X, Y, and Z, or I can't explain it to them, right? Yeah. And that totally didn't happen. Sometimes, I mean, Wendy's listening tonight. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know. It was like something happened there.
Well, it's I totally relate to that. So as a coach myself, I remember being so eager, like, yeah, this is my lane. This is my path. I know how to do this. And then, and I want to get the certification. So I'm doing all the studying, and now I know all these extra things too. And then ultimately, once you get to it, you're actually also supposed to throw all of that stuff out of the way and simply just be present.
Yes, that's the only thing that's necessary. There's no book, there's no like checklist. It's like, if the more you are present, and that is what you cannot be in control and be present. Like, you cannot be holding on and be present. You have to be specifically there, alive, there.
Yes, alive,
Right?
preferably.
Yeah, and like, and it comes, right?
Yeah.
It comes through.
And it gets us to that place of realizing, oh, okay, so this is the connection between control and surrender and letting go and trusting that you're not losing who you are in that moment. You are still you, but when you
Yeah.
release the control of things, you actually also get to come through in a bigger way, because now
Yes.
you are just being present in the moment.
Yes. And you're like an organ, like a piece of creation at that moment, and you're living and breathing, and all of it's just flowing, and you'll pick up on what needs to be picked up on, and all the rest of it doesn't matter. And when it doesn't matter finally for you, you even get better. Like, you pick up on more stuff, right? So yeah, it's really like the control thing is a big piece. It is, because we use it, a lot of us use it as a way to function, as a way
Yeah.
to be present, essentially, in
Right.
a very safe way,
Yes.
right? Like, if I can box myself in this safety net that I am, holding together with my might.
I love that we're talking about this, Jessica. Because so two things. The next thing is that I think a lot of us grow up with this assumption that our value is up here, when really our value is more in here, like just the totality of who you are. Yeah. And that takes absolutely some releasing and letting go of the control, and which brings me to your book, Flow, the beginning is upon us. Like, oh my goodness. Hello, hallelujah for a title like that.
Right?
Yes.
Yes. Finally.
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about what's within that book. Is that all about your journey and your story? Is it more about what you do today, or tell us more about that?
So it's actually a book that it was a message delivered to me. So
Okay.
it has the only thing it has to do with me is that I'm the person delivering the message. So it's through my lens, right?
Okay.
So, and maybe my tone a bit at the time, right? So, but what was interesting is that this message was delivered, and then there was an immense movement of evolving me to come back now, pick it up and edit it again, like edit it with us again, because we're editing out the last version of you, right? Like, and
How
then that
funny.
happened like 3 times, and there was monumental evolution that was happening, and I knew it was because both even in its original form, it was obviously adulterated by my lens at the time, but it was also too, I wasn't ready to represent it. I wasn't ready to stand with this message and say, yes, this is possible. This is what is in the way. This is very clear. Like, and so it doesn't mince words, right? Like, it's me through and through, in terms of, I like to get right to the point. Like, there's no dancing around. There's no time for it. So yeah, so it's a message, and it starts out really lovely. Tells us about, this idea of being in flow is not new. We once, as a people, as a humankind, did live in flow. We just don't really remember it. And yet we have enough like knowledge in us, like in our spirit knows this knowledge, that when we start to hear it and smell it, we go, oh, I think I might remember something like this, or I think I might know that this might be possible. So I love that it starts out that way. And especially I love it because lately I've been doing a lot of work around not repeating old patterns. So
Okay.
not going backwards to go forwards, right? And so
Okay.
and the reason we do that, we go backwards and repeat a pattern, even if it's softly different, is because it's familiar. And so I kind of looking at it now, I'm like, okay, I love that it tells us right in the beginning that this is how we lived and this is what is possible, because it's like, you can go back to that. Like, stop going back to the other things you're doing. If you want to go backwards to go forwards, just go right back to that. Like, skip backwards. And so I kind of love that. And then it gets really clear on and starts to break down kind of chapter by chapter the things that are getting in our way. And so it's kind of like lifting up a rock and looking at all of the creepy crawly little insects underneath and being like, oh, right. Yeah, I was ignoring that part, but I guess I need to look at it, right?
Okay, how does this fit in? How is it similar or different to the concept of we heal in spirals? So, we may heal one layer of something and then it comes back around to heal another layer, and then it comes back around, heal another layer. And as we're going through each layer, it gets better and better,
Yeah.
but there are multiple layers. How does what you were saying about not going backwards to go forwards, how does that, correlate?
I think that this book will help us stop it. Like,
Okay.
it's going to help us trim that process up quite a bit. Like, I've found, and a lot of my clients have found, that things are moving faster. Like, we're healing more completely without needing to kind of keep spinning around. And to the point where the only reason this is coming up for me right now is because it's time to stop. Right? It's time to stop spinning in order. Like, why do we have to keep going through the same scenario to learn the lesson? We can learn the lesson in a totally unique scenario, like the next layer of it, right? Like, it can be totally unique and nothing like whatever the heck was going on before. So, and do we, at some point in time, we move on from learning the lessons, right? So we need to stop this spiraling backwards to go forwards. So it's really interesting that this book is coming out now, and it was meant to come out now, because in the book it actually talks about a change coming. It talks about change coming. There's an energy coming. It's going to feel like this. This is why it's going to feel like this, right? It's going to feel, I was doing an interview yesterday on it, and she mentioned, she was like, oh, peaceful and yet destructive. And I was like, yep, that sounds about right. Right? Like, it's going to bring great peace and destruction, because it's going to destroy the ideas and the constructs that are not true. It's going to break them down very quickly. And we're seeing that very much this year, with COVID, with Black Lives Matter. We're seeing that the constructs, or the societal norm of something, with the financial system, or with Black Lives Matter, that this construct is not going to work anymore, right? Like, everybody knows it. Everybody knows, the way it was is not going to work. And
Right.
this is why it's not going to work. And I think that we're going to see that more and more, like, as ideology and concepts that we've known for a while we're not really working and suiting everyone's needs, and we're holding a lot of people back, and we're going to see those breaking down and breaking down and breaking down.
What would you say? What would you say is I feel like we've already kind of touched on this, but I'm just going to ask it deliberately. What would you say is the first step to when someone's realizing, oh, my world is breaking down, there's destruction? How do I decide what to do next?
Yeah. I think that there is no decision of what to do next. So, right,
Ooh,
like the only cognitive decision there is to be quiet, to hear what the next step is, to actually feel it come out of us and act upon it, because we may not have the wisdom fully ourselves. Like,
right.
it will be a collective wisdom that helps us to step forward. And so I think that's why I suggested for us to take a moment to be quiet, right? Because we cannot force something because we think that it should happen.
Right.
It really needs to emerge. And so there really is, when I start getting like, oh no, what do I do? Like this sort of energy.
Yeah.
Yes, Wendy, be. That's all we can do. We can just be.
Thank you,
Like,
Wendy. Appreciate your
thank
comments.
you. Yeah, because it's the only thing that will help us allow the next step to arise.
So, that was a beautiful answer. Thank you. Because I know, especially like right now, so many different just responses and requests and demands and desires are surfacing all at the same time, and even timing is factoring into it. So there's this sense of, wait, I want to just be, and yet I've got to do something. I've got to do something. I've got to react. And so I really appreciate you acknowledging that's not necessarily even the healthiest or best, highest approach. And I really, really love that. And so with that, for the
And to
person,
say though,
yeah,
too, though, I want to just say that that doesn't make anything else wrong, right? It's just, if we can, if we have the opportunity to sit still, that's not better or not better, right? It's just, we may get an answer that's different than the one that we thought. Like, and if we don't have that opportunity right away, and we need to express whatever is going on, and it feels like we just got to make something happen, that's not wrong either.
because
That's not
ultimately,
wrong or better, or like, it just those are two different ways of being.
I
Yeah.
love that you acknowledge that, because ultimately, let's say someone takes an action and then that doesn't actually resolve whatever they thought it was going to resolve. They'll just be taken back to that same space of going, wait, I've got to do something, or something's got to change, right? There's something. What is the something? And so eventually, when you get to that space of going, okay, my different approach is going to be to, or what if my approach can be
Yeah.
to just not do anything and be. So thank you for acknowledging the part that it doesn't have to be wrong, whatever, you
Yeah.
have already done. So that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. It's always it's always right. All of the things are right, right? They're right in those moments. And so when we learn a different thing that becomes right, it doesn't make the past thing wrong.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, right?
Right. I was this. So this reminds me. I was just having a conversation with someone last night about how, regardless how things can look, there's this amazing question of, what if nothing is wrong? And right, and I just feel like we're already talking about that, but just to ask yourself that question: if it feels like everything is wrong, what if nothing is wrong? What is the gift of this moment? And so I just wanted to share that part.
Mhm.
Jessica, what do you most want to share with people right now today? I mean, you've already shared so many amazing messages, but just like, is there something that we haven't touched on that just like your soul is burning to share?
This idea came yesterday during an interview. I was asked, what more could I be doing right now to make it, to feel complete in my life when my body dies, right?
Mm. Okay.
And the words flow through came to me. And so we're talking about flow, right? And the idea to heal is to move into more ease and to move into more flow or energetic ease. Is that they're the same, you know, stream. So, but this idea to flow through, it's not just it's almost a set, like, to me, I think it's like the next layer of where I'm evolving to, right? And
Okay.
so this idea to flow through is like you're flowing 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 through something, and you're doing it with ease. So whether that's change or whether that's um a rock, I don't know. Like, maybe it's like literally like, yeah, okay, yes, because I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when you kind of step in the energetic flow of a river, right?
Okay.
Like where you can feel it, or even like if you live in the city, like if you have a really busy street, you can feel the flow of traffic. Like that is like a man-made river, if you will, right?
Right.
Like it's and when you can feel while being still, feel that movement moving through you, right?
Oh, that's a great example.
Yes, yeah. And so that's flowing through. It's like there is nothing stopping you, right? There is no rock, there is no bend, there is no stop sign, there is no, like, once the flow of the movement is created, it just goes. Like you feel it no matter what. Like, even, I don't know if you've ever been to a dam, like the energy still flows through there, even though it's
Oh,
stopping the water, right? It still goes.
it
At
makes
least it should. Yeah. Like, and if it doesn't, call me, but
well, it makes sense because if we talk
yeah.
about, from person to person, right? One person can be feeling tons of intense anger, and you might think that the boundary of their skin, their bones, keeps it contained in them, but it doesn't. We all
No.
know when we walk into a room and there's, I could cut the tension with a knife. I mean, it flows beyond that person.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah.
And so can we start to flow through the hurdles, the bends in the river, the up, like, instead of going up and down, can we just go through? Like, we just,
It,
yeah.
the other phrase that comes to mind as you describe that is feeling into. It's
Mm-hmm.
just allowing ourselves to feel. There was a long time ago, many years ago, I was way more up here, and as I was really going, wait a second, yeah, we got to practice this feeling thing, which sounds so odd because we all know what feelings are and how to feel, and we've all had emotions, and yet to learn how to get to a place where you can go, what am I feeling right now, and click into that and feel, identify it. That takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes practice of knowing how to allow yourself to surrender and relax into the flow of something so you can feel it and allow it to flow through you. And
Mm-hmm.
the value of that, like, why would you even do that? Only woo-woo people do that. No.
Oh.
The value of that is because it gives you that information. It,
Mm-hmm.
it tells it tells you, oh, wait, there's something else here. And then that informs, like you just said, why you didn't say this part, but why does the next question have to be, what's my next action step? Why can't it be, okay, so right now I'm actually going to just be,
Yeah.
and then that feeling will inform it.
Mm-hmm. It will. Because I think we may think that we're feeling stuff, but we're usually only feeling the emotion that we're the most comfortable with expressing, no matter how
Ooh.
beautiful or destructive it is, right? So I think of like, like, okay, but what's underneath that, right? So yes, oh, it equals, and it's funny because a client of mine, who has like tends towards extreme joy, I'm like, well, let's look under that and see what's there. Because you never think, you're like, oh, that's a great emotion. Why would I need to know, what is underneath it? Well, it's like, well, what you should, if that's the only way you respond to stuff. If you've only got, like anger and joy, like there's all sorts of other things. There's sadness. There's like, right, like,
Right.
and then there's like the in between of those things. There's frustration. There's happiness. There's like, so where you what's going on that is equaling this. And so that's where we start to get into the layers of it, right? And this is where we even back away from being triggered in one way or another, right? Because we'll jump to the emotion that we're comfortable with. But when we can start to look at it, then we can really look at like what is triggering us, because we can't understand what is being exactly said or done until we can think, what am I feeling? Like, what is this, you
Yeah.
know?
I love that. Jessica, tell us more. This has been such an awesome conversation. I love talking with you, Jessica.
I know.
Okay, so I know you have an event coming up, and you work with clients, help them release and heal their limiting beliefs, past traumas, all of that. That's why our conversation's been centered around this whole topic. And
Yeah.
tell us more about what you do and your event.
Sure. So I am, so I, yeah, I'm a healer. I think we get that to this point. And like my specialty with working with people is to uncover who they truly are and then move everything out of the way of that. And what it looks like is my spirit having a conversation with your spirit, and literally like my spirit going, well, I see you have this thing that you're showing me. But what if this? And then, your spirit will go, well, maybe, maybe. And then we kind of like negotiate that back and forth. Until generally, I don't want to say I win, but like you're like, yeah, I proved the point, right? Like it's
I win.
I win, I win, and you let go.
So that wasn't too loud.
Well, that's awful. Sorry, it's not a winning thing.
No, it's not.
And because sometimes it doesn't. Like sometimes I have, I'm with clients and we're just silly. It's like 9 p.m. at night here. I'm like, it's time for bed. It's like 10 to 10. It's definitely time to bed. But yeah,
This is the letting go and the surrendering into it.
Yes, yeah,
Okay,
the silliness, right?
yeah.
And so because sometimes the person there is no thing that my spirit can say, right? And I have to have that conversation with my client and say, like, you don't want to budge off of this. And so maybe we'll see each other in a few full moons and see what's coming up then. But like, we'll do a check-in, but it's not budging right now. So, so that's some of the work that I do. It's pretty unique. When people work with me, they hear who exactly they are, which is really lovely, what their gifts are, which seems to really bring out, like, they feel empowered, they feel confident, they feel more on purpose, they start to listen to their intuition more, right? So all of these things happen, which then equals like a lot of professional and personal success, because they're no longer trying to figure it out by themselves. What's the move? What's the move? So this is really lovely for
That's
my
beautiful.
clients. And yeah, it's been lovely for me. I mean, it's amazing. So that's some of the work that I do. And right now we kind of talked about the book that got delivered to me and that I've written and put out. And we're launching the book this June, which is exciting. So yeah, I know. June 16th on Tuesday, we're doing an event, a book launch. So it's in ebook form right now. And we're going to I'm going to have I'm going to have a woman who's amazing in this space, a book editor and a book translator, and just like loves this space of books. And she's going to interview me for all the guests, all the attendees. And we're going to do like a Q&A, and I'm going to do a first reading of some of the passages from the book.
Nice.
So it's going to be a nice evening. So I'm going to put my link into the chat so that everybody knows. And right now, if you are like, I just want to have that book, and I will join you so that we can, like, I want to ask you questions because I want to read it. It's available right now for a preview time at 99 cents. So you can download the ebook before it goes up. So it's like a great price.
Okay.
So you'll see that now online. I don't know. You're going to have to help me. How do I put this in the link?
Are you go to the public chat, and then there's a little box. It's at the bottom there.
You know what? It doesn't seem to work. So that's okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you'll put it in the chat when we're done.
I'll put it in the chat when we're done. And so I'll put a link to the book, and then I'll put a link to the event. And so we're doing that Tuesday, June the 16th, which is, a few days getting close to the new moon and the solar eclipse, the ring of fire, they're calling it, the solstice, the summer solstice, like all sorts of energy stuff. So I think it'll be a great night for a conversation. So
awesome. So that's essentially your book launch event.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. I definitely, I want to see that link. I'd love to check it out and get the book now. How cool is that? Yeah. Wonderful. Jessica, what words of inspiration can you leave today's audience with? Would you like to leave today's audience with?
Be amazingly generous with yourself. Be amazingly generous with yourself, and then allow the world to be amazingly generous with you.
Yeah. That is wonderful. I love that. Thank you for that. Be amazingly generous with yourself, and then allow the world to be amazingly generous with you. There's tons of ease and flow in that. So thank you for that. Jessica, thank you so much for being here tonight. Again, she's going to put her link for her book launch event as well as the book for you to get access to that now. She'll put that here live on Facebook when we're done. And I thank you so much for being here and being open to today's conversation. I see so much relevancy in it, but also it was just so much fun. And so thank you for joining me in today's show.
Thank you very much, Kim, for having this show. I think we've met a couple of times, right? And we've done some off books, hidden in groups sort of interviews. And I'm so pleased to get this interview with you and this energy with you, and then put this out through, spread this out further. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Feelings mutual. I love it. So with that is our show for today. And I hope you are doing well wherever you are. And I just want to remind everybody that every day really is a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. And wherever you were yesterday does not have to be where you are today, and all of that. And it's, the power of choice is just built into every single moment to really give us that new day experience at all times. And so I leave you with that. We're going to go ahead and end today's show here, and I'll see you next week with another fantastic guest. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Stay right there, Jessica.
Bye.
And that's today's show. So, what are you taking away? Let me know down in the comments wherever you listened or watched today's episode, and connect with me on Facebook on the Every Day is a New Day show and coaching page, or visit KimO'NeillCoaching.com for more info. Remember, every day is always a new day. Wherever you are today does not have to be where you are tomorrow. There is always hope, and you will always be amazing. I'll see you next time.